KXRN LP, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach. KXFM on 104.7, KXFMradio.org.
We're back. Hey, everybody. And I believe I have Katie on the line. Katie,
I am here.
There
Hi.
she is. I am super excited. I'm great. I am great. How are you, Katie?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm so excited to, talk to you and have your audience here. It's actually, I just wanted to say, too, the one time I went to California, I went to Laguna Beach, and something in my heart pulled me to that place, and I feel such a connection to go back one day. So, just excited to talk to you and your listeners.
Well, I am super excited about having you on the show and, here virtually in the studio. You're calling in from Montana?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Katie has done a number of videos recently where she is sitting, what appears to be she's actually sitting in a creek, but I'm guessing she's sitting on the side of the creek. But there's this wonderful, lovely Montana creek behind her. And sometimes it looks like she's freezing to death, but she's there soldiering on.
Yes. Yeah. There's actually a rock in the middle of the river where I just always go to this one spot because that's where I get all the clarity for videos. So that's where I've been. It is getting very cold in Montana, so I'm wondering when I'm going to have to go back inside to make videos. But for now, I'm trying as hard as I can to stay out in nature because I love it.
Well, absolutely. Grounding yourself in Mother Earth, that's the way to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I told my folks here a little bit about you, but what I'd love for you to let everybody in on is kind of your, all of us have a path, right? And a large part of my show and who I am is talking, about my journey over the last 20 years. For you, it hasn't taken you quite that long to awaken, if you will. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing, and I believe you are as well, and I'm super excited about, is the fact that there are more and more people at a younger age now with that awakening, right? With that, right? Just kind of that knowing of, hey, there's something more out there. There's something more inside me. And they're curious, right? I like to call them spiritually curious, and so they're really wakening up to that. Now you've had your YouTube channel for a couple of years now.
It's funny. I've had it a couple of years, yes, but I only had a couple of videos on there in 2022, and then I stopped. It just wasn't the time. I wasn't growing, and so it was just this past August, 3 months ago, that I had this download to go on YouTube, and Spirit told me this is where you're meant to be now. And so I started making videos, and they started taking off. And I even have a good friend who she's done YouTube for a while, and she's just so amazed at how it's grown so quickly for me. But yes. I think it's just when you follow that call, it just happens. And I just trusted that calling and just started sharing from my heart. And the audience that I've, cultivated and the people I've talked to have just been such beautiful lights. And I mean, reflections of myself, we're all, I believe, just reflections of one another. And so it's just been a gift, to start and be on the platform, because I do see the growth of this whole, whatever you want to call it, like you said, spiritually curious people and people waking up. It's just such a gift that I can be, sharing my voice and pulling in those people who kind of have the same exact perspectives. I've talked to a lot of people who are just everything you're saying, it speaks to, it feels like you're talking directly to me. And it's funny when I hear that, because I've heard so many people say that. It's just because I'm just reflecting back exactly the same frequency that, they're on. So, that's a little bit about how I got on YouTube just recently. And it's been just amazing to witness.
Yeah. I was probably introduced to you, Katie, maybe about a month or so ago. A friend of mine sent one of your videos, and I was instantly drawn in. Your message is amazing, and I think listen, we all have different different people that we connect with, that we follow, that we resonate with. But I found your message was inspiring. I found it just to be spot on, and it really spoke to me. I mean, to the point you were just saying, where people were going, yeah, this message was made just for me. Well, and little do they know that it actually was, because I'm fully convinced that we all hear something differently, right? Based on where we're at, or what we need to hear, or what Spirit wants us to hear at any given time, right? So, talk a little bit about, Katie, your kind of your path to where I mean, how did this all come about?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, if I could really dissect my whole story, we'd be here for days. But
okay, let's do the quick version.
Yeah, for sure. To sum it up, I mean, what you were saying, it's so funny. My friends even call me like an anomaly. They're like, Katie, I don't even understand where your soul is from, how you're on this path so quick, because I did really, like, quote unquote, wake up, if you want to call it that, 2.5 years ago. And since then, I feel like I've been on a rocket ship, just awakening more and more to different parts of who I am and what I'm here to do. And so, my whole life, I had actually severe social anxiety for most of my life, where I was just terrified of the world, and I was scared of judgment. And it was just because, a sensitive soul out in the world, in this world, I just had a lot of emotions, and growing up in this world and society that kind of teaches us to push away our emotions and be somebody that we're not. I kind of fell into that box, as many of us do. And so I think that I learned to just, become somebody that I totally wasn't. And it was definitely difficult, but, everyone's journey is difficult in their own unique way. And that was a big part of mine, was the social anxiety. And then it came to 2020. I remember when the pandemic happened, I had this epiphany moment where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I need to change this. I know that I'm a very bubbly, confident, happy person, but it felt like I had this almost like block all over my body. And so I started going to therapy. I started getting into EFT tapping, which is, it helps really like deprogram kind of like those beliefs that you have about who you are in a negative way. And so I really started getting into that. And then, that's when I entered the manifestation space of, I can actually rewrite who I am and create my own story. Like, that's cool. So I started, just doing affirmations, meditation, getting all into that, like, that world, and which was beautiful. And then I kind of got rid of my social anxiety. I became like a whole new person, it felt like. But the whole new person that, I knew was underneath. And then, since then, it was in 2022, I remember sitting on the beach in Florida where I used to live, and I just had a spiritual awakening. It was something I couldn't quite describe. I was sitting on the beach. I was walking the beach collecting seashells, and I remember looking out at the ocean, because the ocean is like where I feel so connected to source and just home and love. And I remember looking out and just feeling this overwhelming sense of peace for my existence and being in this world, and knowing that, life is a fairy tale. And that's the big, and I'll go into that a little bit, but in a little bit. But I think that moment was a big wake up for me. And it was January 1st, 2022, because it was right after New Year's, on New Year's Day. And I remember that feeling in my heart. And I was just like, I'm going to live my life like a fairy tale from here on out, no matter what happens, no matter, where I am, what I'm doing. And at the time, I had a corporate job. I still made it my mission to every day just live in love and have a beautiful life. And that was just the start. And then, since then, it's been such a deep unravel of, I've had months of just that fairy tale nature. And then I've had months of just deep in it healing and, ego deaths and all the things you experience as you wake up consciously. And for anyone who's listening to, who is, just starting on this path or whatever it is, it's really, I call it like the deep unravel. You're really unraveling who you thought you were to step more into who you are. And I still believe, I have so much more to go, as we all do. It's always an unravel. But what I've always come back to is knowing that I'm already healed as I am now. And so I think that since, 2022, even though amidst all these times where, I've had lots of darkness and I've been, deep healing, I always return back to love. I always told myself, it's going to be okay, and I get to choose that feeling in my heart. Yet at the same time, what I think is so interesting, and I'm sure, Rick, you're probably familiar with this, or anyone listening, is when you get on the spiritual journey, the spiritual path, oftentimes I like to call, you can get trapped in like the spiritual matrix, where it's this healing loop where you feel that you're not whole as you are. You've got to keep doing the shadow work, doing the deconditioning work, all of it. And I've never been somebody who is very good at like purging tears for a long period of time. And I've had friends who they've gone through it, months at a time. They're just like letting out the feels. And for me, it was never, they come up, but it's never that common or that often. And so I would always get in my head about it. I was like, am I blocked? Is there something I'm not healing? Why can't I cry? I was just basically gaslighting myself for a long time, until honestly this year, when I had this wake up moment, and I, obviously gone to lots of healers and work with lots of teachers. And recently this woman told me, she's like, Katie, you're here to feel good, to love. And when I was actually earlier this year living in Costa Rica, I had this massive, another awakening where I was just kind of told by my guides, by spirit, that, my message is to share the message of love. And so as simple as it is, I think that that's why so many people right now are hearing my message and feeling like I'm speaking directly to them, to their soul, because love is who we are at our core. And I think that that's the message that so many people need to hear right now amidst, as we're all aware of what's going on in the world and what's to come, is a lot of crumbling of systems that have been built not out of love. And so for me to share that message of love and of feeling good, and, you actually do get to create a fairy tale life. And, that's what we're here to do. I truly believe, and I've been shown that, at least for myself, it's my mission to help people wake up to the truth of who they are and their power. And amidst that is the love in their heart and the love in their life that they get to create. And so, I just think that a lot of people are like aching to hear that and feel that. And so when I speak these messages, it feels like, oh my gosh, you're so unique. I've never heard this before. It's just because I think it's not, like I said, as common. And I don't know. I just think that it's my mission here big time. And I just keep being told by my guides day in, day out, like, keep repeating this message to people. It seems very simple, very basic. Sometimes I still will get in my head as I'm still a human, and I'm like, I don't know, is this, am I still beating the same, bush with this? And it's just, no, it just is what comes through from my heart. And I think that's something too that I've learned, especially this year, is, I've made it my mission to speak more of my truth and to really find out who it is that I am here to be and help other people do that. So I am always consistently every day making sure that, putting my ego in check still as I grow this audience, and as I, work with lots of people who are, amazed by what I'm doing. I truly believe it's not me. Like, I'm a channel, and I'm, just channeling what the divine wants to flow through me. And it's my mission to help other people do the same. I think that I'm a complete reflection of everyone else in my life, my friends, my family, all of it, in one way or another. And that goes for the same people that watch me. Is like, I want to help people see that, the light that I have in me is what someone else has in themselves. And so, that's a little bit about how I got here. I know that went off in a million directions,
no,
but
that's great.
I hope that helps.
No, that's awesome. That was beautiful. I really appreciate that. And the interesting thing that you touch on, and I talked about it in my first hour when we were talking about kind of the path to awakening, but where I've had a number of people ask me, what's my purpose? When do I figure out what my purpose is? And I said, well, I'm gonna spoil it for you, and I'm gonna tell you, because everybody's purpose is very, very similar. And for me, what that purpose is it's twofold. One, we are here as spirit in human form to experience the earth, this life, in whatever shape, form it takes. We're here to do that. That's not in any particular order, but just to say it's number one. But number two, and I think even more importantly, we're here to share our light. And sharing our light is exactly what you talked about, Katie. It's where you're talking about sharing the love. That to me is the light. It's the love. And I've had this conversation over and over again, and I think, you know, sharing your light doesn't mean that you have to stand on the street corner, you know, with a sign that says repent, or, you know, you're banging a gong or something like that. That's not what it's all about. It's living your day-to-day life, whatever you're doing. You work, you're at the grocery store, you're with friends, whatever it is. But sharing your light is just being who you are, your true self, right? Yeah. And people will pick up on that. They pick up on that higher vibration. And I have people I'll be walking down the street and just strangers smile at me, smiling. And it's cool. And I know now that a lot of it has to do with just my vibration is at a higher level now, where they sense it. I mean, it's unconscious for them, and they smile. They're just going, you know, there's some good vibes coming off this guy. So, but I truly believe that. And you know, you had a calling to share this at a different level, meaning, you know, this is what you do. I mean, you've got your channel here. You do intuitive readings for people. You're doing activations. So talk a little bit about how you're sharing with folks that way. And this is really kind of your focus on a daily basis, other than putting out the 15 videos that you do every day.
I know everyone's always like, you must have so many videos out. So it's, I mean, like I said, to be honest with you, if you told me I'd be doing this a year ago, I would have thought you were crazy. Like, I did not know that this was what was coming, because a year ago I was in the depths of healing. I was just shedding lots of layers of again, who I thought I was. And so I remember too, I have friends who they channel light language. I have very psychic friends. And at the time I was very, very frustrated with, like, why is this not, you know, is it not a part of my path? Is it not something that I can tap into? Is it not the time? But it always felt like my calling. I was like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do. It just was never the right time. And I've heard this with a lot of people and their callings. It's like, if we try to do it when it's not the right time, we'll often be like sat back down by spirit. And that's kind of what was happening to me. And so when I got back, because I moved from Costa Rica to Montana after traveling for some time this summer, was really when I again had that realization of, oh no, this is really what I'm here to do. And I just started practicing, especially with light language. And I always tell people, you know, psychic abilities, intuition, light language, whatever you want, like all of it, it's something that we can all tap into. We're all very connected. It's just like tuning your frequency or the dial to a different radio station almost. And so for myself, I've kind of learned this summer to really just practice and tune into my heart in the space of channeling my light language. And over time, it just started to build and build and build. And the same thing with my intuitive readings is I just kind of dove headfirst into it. You know, my first reading I gave, hadn't even done one before. And it was just like, I think that push for myself of pushing through the fear, because that's something that's definitely important that we all do, because fear will always be there. But when we prove to God, to universe, whatever you want to call it, that we're ready for something, they're going to set us up for success. We just have to put in the work. And so, yeah, I just started kind of getting on these calls and sharing my links to book with me. And since then, it's just been like this opening of something I just never knew was there, like so much untapped potential. And I think that's something for a lot of people. And so a lot of my readings and activations, what they entail is really me tuning into people's power, because, you know, every psychic, every intuitive, every healer is very, very different in what they can tap into in their energy field. And, you know, there's mediums, there's so many different ways to share with somebody the information that they're ready to hear. But I open myself up as a channel to receive the guidance that their soul is ready to hear at that time. And I do it in an empowered way, because I think, again, that goes along with my message of love, is I really want people to see that they have so much power in them. And so a lot of my readings will entail me accessing a future timeline, which is so funny, because I'm always like, Spirit, you're telling me things that are happening like far in advance, but it's because it's like these big things that are going to happen in people's lives, because I think people need that motivation at this time. I think a lot of the world is just craving that spark of motivation and just like love and insight to something greater in their life that's to come. And so I just share that with people often in my calls and then my activations as well. I channel light language, as you're familiar with. I haven't posted a video in a while channeling my light language, but I do my one-on-one light code activation for people where I basically help. What I say is I help activate their soul gifts and codes. And I've been told this by my guides over and over. This is what I'm doing, is because we all carry different gifts, different codes. And for people listening, what that just means is, like, in our DNA, in our bodies, we carry specific coding that our soul kind of brought into this life from past lives, from elsewhere. And that's what we're here to share with the world. And so I can help with my light language to activate that coding in your DNA. And it's basically light language for anyone listening as well. It's just channeled frequency. And so it can be very healing and activating for the cells in your body, your DNA. And so as I channel the light language and do my energy healing, it's basically pulling in that power within somebody and activating it within their body. And you kind of said this, Rick, as well. It's so funny. Everyone's like, what's my purpose? I need to know. And something I am always telling people is our purpose is ever evolving. And so my purpose right now is going to change tomorrow. It's every single day a different purpose, but at the core of it, it's to exist. And to go even further with that, I would say it's to exist in love. And kind of what you said, Rick, too, it's to exist in love, which is the light. And so if we just do that, and I tell people this every day, if you move forward, even though I can give someone a powerful activation and give them all this insight, it's up to them to really return to their heart and in their love. And in their heart, see that they are love. And through that, like, the universe, God, divine, whoever you resonate with as your higher power is going to give you what you need in your life and support you all the way, as long as we return to that love in our heart. And that's not to say that, we're not going to go through challenging times or difficulties or all of it. I've experienced so much of this, especially through my expansion. The recent months, it's been really simultaneously very intense. And that's just a byproduct of us expanding into more and more love. I share this with people, is that you have to kind of buckle up for this life, because it's a beautiful experience. We're here to, as you said, experience it all. And I believe our souls come here just to exist and not to actually think that we have to do a million things, heal a million things. And I tell this to people too, is I'm always out here on my channel like, you have a powerful mission, a powerful purpose, and hyping people up. But I always bring people down to back to remembering, yes, you have a purpose. Yes, it's big, but don't let it, get to your head, and don't let yourself freak out over it, because at the end of the day, we are just here to experience our souls on a much higher level. Before we came to this planet, we saw Earth and said, let's go have a good time. My friends and I always say, because my friend too, she's like a big psychic, big healer, but we always will have these crazy conversations about the world and what's happening and the shifts that are to come. And then we'll come back to just being like, you know what, let's just exist. Let's just have fun. Let's just exude joy. And we always say, which is so funny and random, but we're always like, Bob Marley frequency is the frequency that, we really should exist at. It's just like one love at the end of the day. It's not that serious. It's not that deep, but simultaneously it is so deep and beautiful. But if you compare those energies together, I feel everyone could live such a magical life if we come back to that. So, yeah.
I love that. That's so great. When you made the decision, Katie, because you had said earlier on that you had a corporate job, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you made a decision to leave that corporate job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
oh my God.
That was, yeah. And I can speak to that personally myself, because just within the past, just the past little month or so for me, it was a similar situation in my life where Spirit told me, Rick, this is what you need to do. You need to help others on their path. And my approach is is definitely different than yours and a lot of other folks, where mine is I call myself a coach and a mentor, and it's kind of one of those situations, Katie, where I feel been there, done that. I've and still doing it, right? I mean, as you said, it's an ever-evolving, never-ending process. But talking to people that are spiritually curious, but they don't, okay, what do I do now? You know, what do I do? And there's so much, there's so much out there. When I started the path 20 years ago, and I started picking up some books and reading some really incredible things, and then, you know, that was just, you know, YouTube wasn't even a thing 20 years ago, right? So we didn't even have the benefit of that. But I just think there's so much out there. So part of my calling at this point, really, part of my calling is helping people down that path and getting them, helping them to build a foundation that they then can continue to build on, right? That foundation. Yeah. And I think that's what you're doing a lot of times with your readings, with your activations, is laying that foundation for people that they then can build on, right? Because I want to give people some practical, right? Practical. Yeah. Here's some practical tips. Here's some practical stuff. Here's, you know, on my website I have this resource page. Matter of fact, you're on my resource page as a resource for people, right? Because I think being able to steer people in the right direction, and everybody's going to take their own path, right? Everybody has their own path, but it's discovering along that path what can help me? What can help me overcome the fear that I have, or the limiting beliefs that I have, or the feeling of I'm not worthy, or any number of things, right? That our egoic mind still has locked in there, right? That constantly throwing, oh no, you're not a spiritual being. You don't want to be that. That's just silly. You know, come back into reality, into the 3D world, right? So, so was that for you when you made the decision? This is what you're going to do. Was that a scary moment, or was it a joyful moment, or kind of a combination?
Oh my gosh, such a combination. And, you know, it's funny because for anyone listening to, I just resonate so hard with people, because as much as this is happening for me now, like I said, it's been years where I've had friends fully in their purpose, or, you know, doing readings, and it was all I wanted to do, but it was years of me just waiting and working this corporate job, and it was frustrating for me and annoying, because I was like, I'm ready, but I clearly wasn't. It wasn't the time. And so I always just say, before I go into like how I felt leaving my job, is patience is so key. I even have patience as tattooed on my arm of one of my 3 tattoos, because I need this reminder every day. That's been my theme of my life. And I always tell people, you know, and my teacher told me recently, she said, a vocation is a calling. And so if you're meant to do something in this life, if you feel this calling to do something, be patient, pair it with patience, because you will do it. You will find a way. Your soul's not going to lead you astray and let you live in this life that you don't want to live, or this job forever and ever, because you will find your way. It's just through patience and really deep surrender. And for me, you know, like, I was working my corporate job for 2.5 years, and I will say I was definitely very blessed and lucky, but at the same time, I really made it my mission to manifest a job that was remote, so that I was able to base myself wherever I wanted. And I'm a big homebody, so I need to be kind of like at home in my workplace. So I made it my mission to do that, but it was still very, very taxing. And just last year, I remember I got like this big promotion to be this director of this department in the company, and it was so terrifying and stressful, because I was, you know, leading a whole department for this startup who was trying to figure their own way out. And so I was just thrown into this crazy, chaotic, growing mess almost. And so I remember it was like 5 months into that role, where this January, actually, my friend, it's so funny, I always say she's like an activator, and the things she says, I swear someone's channeling through her, because she just looked at me one day after I was basically shaking with just like, I can't do this anymore, but I have no choice. Like, I'm in Guatemala, I need to work. And she looked at me and she said, why don't you just quit your job? That one phrase, even though it's like anyone could have said that to me, something about the way she said it, I looked at her and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to quit my job. I don't have any plans. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do it because I have to take this leap.
Yeah.
And not to say that everyone has to do it. I knew in that moment for my situation, it was what I had to do. So I did it. And 3 months, I just kind of went through my savings and just definitely rested. Like my friend and I, we needed a lot of rest from our past year. And that's when I had another, big moment where Spirit said, move to Montana. You need to go back there. So I came back to Montana where my family is. And that's when, it's so funny too, this summer, it humbled me because, and for anyone listening, I share this because I think like it's so humbling for me to say this, but I worked on a farm and I made, a fourth of what I was making at my corporate job, just like enough money to make food or to buy food. And so I did that because I needed that peace of mind. I needed nature. And so I think it's just through trusting like what my priorities are at that moment. So like this summer, yeah, a lot more money would have been great, but the peace of mind I got by being in nature, being, with less people around me was what I needed over getting that 2-week consistent paycheck and having my brain just like explode every day at work. So I think that was so beneficial for me. And through that process, I think because I surrendered and I let this summer be my rest period, that's when I was kind of blessed this August with my channel growth. And so, I think it's just through deep surrender. And it was such a painful, fearful process. I mean, I've had to work through so many beliefs around money, and I still do to this day. And so I'm by no means like, this person who's made it, and healed everything. I always tell people like
KXFM business member Tea and Turmeric.
Oh, here we go.
No, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, so that's a little sum of kind of like the roller coaster of life I've been on this year. It's been ups and downs, highs and lows, and I'm just coasting through it.
Yeah. Katie, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more from you. So just hang in there for about a minute.
Okay.
Located at 1175 South Coast Highway, right next to the Sandpiper, can now also be found at the Farmers Market, opening up another opportunity to check out their spices, olive oils, wide variety of wellness products, as well as loose teas, gourmet gifts, and authentic Indian spices and teas made from treasured family recipes. Tea and Turmeric is open 7 days a week from 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Their number is 949-715-9600. Tea and Turmeric.
Now open at the Academy Museum, Cyberpunk, envisioning possible futures through cinema. Explore the legacy of films like Blade Runner, The Matrix, and Night Raiders through production materials, costumes, props, and more. Get tickets at academymuseum.org/cyberpunk.
Hi, this is KXFM meteorologist Dave Murray. Looks like another warm day on tap on this Wednesday. Warm for Laguna Beach anyway. Hang in there, though. A shallow marine layer is going to be taking over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's going to knock our temperatures back a couple of degrees. Pretty good surf on tap over the next 2 days. Nice waves out there. Take a look. On this Wednesday, lots of sunshine. 75 at the beach, 78 the mountaintop, the canyon 75. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. It's a warm evening, but it will be chilly overnight, 58. Thursday and Friday, early clouds, then sunshine, 69, 70 for high temperatures Thursday and Friday. That's my forecast. I'm meteorologist Dave Murray. Tune in, turn on to KXFM 104.7, Laguna's Community Radio.
We are back with Katie. Katie.
Hello.
Hello there. Yes. I told you it wasn't going to be but a minute, and here we are. We're back again. I know the feeling, when you're talking about leaving the corporate job, leaving that, every 2 week, paycheck type thing, but just knowing that that's what you needed to do, that was your calling, that was, it was the right place and right time. So I completely relate to that. And I know, I find myself at times, Katie, in this situation where, you're sharing with others. I do it, obviously through this radio show, but also through my coaching practice. But you're putting yourself out there, and you've taken off like a rocket, which is fantastic. You've got a lot of views, and I'm sure that's helping you from a standpoint of being able to book your intuitive readings and light code activations and work with folks that way. But, you find yourself, I find myself in that, you were talking about your feelings around money and abundance, and finding yourself in that situation where you just, the old saying, let go, let God, right? You just have to let it go at times. That's what I find.
Yeah.
You just have to let it go because you're always going to be taken care of one way or another.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And I think the more we quote unquote worry about it, the more it's going to bring it into our field, right? It'll suck it into our field. Whereas if you could just, and it's hard, right? Well, Rick, that's easy to say. I got to pay my rent here in a couple of weeks. But because Spirit, Source, God, the universe will always show you a way. It's not like, sit on your couch and somebody will knock on your door and they're going to bring you a bag of money. Well, I don't know, maybe for somebody that happens, but for most of us, but you are led, right? You're led, you're inspired, you're and also a part of it is, you were talking about, not being the right time. And I always like to call it divine timing, right? Spirit has its own time, right? And matter of fact, there is no time. There is no time in spirit world, right? So my angelic guides, they don't know what time is. They try to interpret it in the way that we do, but for them, there's no time. So it's not like, I need to have that happen in the next 2 weeks. Okay, well, we've activated it and it's coming your way, but we just can't be sure of the timing. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, right? So that's that's certainly been a challenge for me that I don't necessarily struggle with it on a daily basis, but certainly can struggle with it in trying to kind of keep myself grounded. And it's funny, if I'm feeling any kind of anxiety about it, I'll usually just go into meditation at that point, right, where I can kind of bring myself back into back inside, back into my safe space, if you will.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 1,000,000%. And two, I have talked to so many people who say the same thing of like, Katie, I know I'm meant to do, X, Y, Z, and why is it not, like, it's just, I feel like I've waited forever and ever. And I always tell people, like, what you just said, time unfortunately doesn't exist. And so on our, as a human being experiencing this reality, time, it technically does exist here. I always say, like, it's hard for our minds to just conceptualize that it doesn't. So I just agree with the fact that it does exist. But to the spirit realm, to God, the universe, it doesn't. And so each of us, I believe, too, we all have those visions of what we want to create for our life, or we have those feelings. Everyone, no matter how old, no matter how tapped in they are to their intuition, everybody has that gut feeling of that knowing that of what they want to create or what they're here to do. It's just that doubt that gets in the way. And so I always say, time, you just have to be patient. As hard as it is to hear, it's truly the key, because when we're patient and we surrender to the timing that, the universe has for us, that's when the magic starts to unfold. And the same goes for money, what you said. And, for instance, me leaving this consistent paycheck, making a certain amount of money, to going, a fourth of that, it wasn't actually a step back. And to a lot of us, and myself at the time, it felt that way. I was like, my ego was a little bit scratched, because I was like, I'm making way less, like I'm going back, but it's not actually the case. In fact, we just have to follow that calling. And I just say to people too, is if you can just every day follow those little nudges that feel like you're meant to go a specific route, or do something, or meet that person, even if it's that small feeling, but the logical mind is saying like, well, why would you do that? Why would you go that way? It doesn't matter. If you follow that feeling, you're never going to be led astray. Like, your soul's never going to mislead you.
Right.
And so I think that in that, for my instance too, was like, I knew that's what I had to do. And it wasn't a step back. In fact, it was actually a step forward in the right direction. So for anyone feeling like, you're in your job and you're like, well, why am I here? I still know that I can resonate with people in the sense that I was so impatient for years in my job, but I always found a way in my day-to-day to just come back to love, come back to the knowing that what I wanted was, yes, coming, but I wasn't in this, like, obviously there were days, but it's not to wait and wish and hope and be in that wanting energy, because that's going to just kind of push it further. But if you just know it's a part of your path, you come back to the knowing of, well, I know I'm always taken care of. I know that God, Source, Spirit is always supporting me, because they are. You're never going to be, led astray. And it might be a couple years, it might be a couple months, But surrendering to the timeline of when it ever is going to play out is all we need to do, and just following those little nudges in our life. And I think that's what I can honestly attest to, like that being what's gotten me here today, was just always following my gut, even when fear arose, because it always will. Like, quitting the job, it was terrifying. I had many days where, because, as we're breaking through fear, we're shedding our old self, and the old self wants you to stay in the comfort zone. It wants you to stay where you are. And so when you break out of that and you choose a different life, a different timeline, the fear of the mind is going to show up and it might show up in your body, it might show up in your mind, and create all these thoughts telling you and convincing you to go back and go a different way. But if you keep pushing through that because you have that knowing in your heart, you're always going to be led to the right place. Just trust in the timing of it all, and know you're always supported, like you said, Rick.
Yes, always. Katie, the information that you're providing, right? And it's coming from spirit. It's coming from your guides, right? And the cool thing is each one of us has our own guides. A lot of people think of it as a guardian angel, and normally there's a lot more than one. But just the angels. I have a group of angelic guides called the Eternal Ones. That's who I connect with. That's who I speak to. That's who speak to me.
Yeah.
When you get a transmission come through, is it just random, or do you call on it? In other words, when you're doing a video, I can see you constantly because you're looking at notes that you've taken down, right?
Yeah.
How does that happen for you?
Yeah, it's so different every time, and I'm still learning. To be honest, I'm still learning how it happens. But a lot of times, why I look at my notes is where I get my guidance. When I tune into my guides, and I always say I connect to my guides, my higher self, because they're all one and the same. But that's kind of who I connect with in meditation. I will get shown visions or hear things that I'm meant to share, and so I will write down in my notes. So it's kind of, my meditations are always interrupted because I'm checking I'm writing on my phone the notes that Spirit's saying, hey, you need to share this. So I create my notes on my phone, and then when I'm on a video is where I basically will look at my notes and kind of pull from what I was tuning into in meditation, while simultaneously, as I'm recording, oftentimes I'm getting downloads as I'm speaking. So it's kind of like I'm pulling from my meditation that morning or the night before, as well as in the moment. But I always, especially before readings, for each specific person, I have a protocol where I'm, calling in my guides, angels, and theirs as well, and then doing my, protection ritual and cleansing and all that. But when it comes to my own, content, and it too, it's different in the sense that some days I will sit down and I have no idea what I'm going to record, but I just have this urge, like Spirit's turn the camera on, and I'll just start recording. So every single time is different, but I always love to have notes because my brain goes everywhere. As you're probably aware, my videos are all over the place sometimes because I just feel like the energy, and that's something too is, as I said, every healer, every psychic is very different. Mine is I'm very connected to that energy. So if I get a surge of this very strong heart-based energy, it's my inclination to sit down and record, and then it just kind of comes through. So every single one is so different, but that's a little bit of how it goes.
That's cool, and like you said, it's ever evolving, and I'm sure it will change over the course. I know, in speaking to a number of channelers that have done it for years and years and years, they talk about how it changes. It just different spirits come in, different groups come in, and it just it tends to grow, right? I think. And which makes sense. I think if your frequency is open to that, I think outside, spiritual, whatever, angelic, whatever it is, they tap into that, right? And if you're open to that, they're gonna come in and just kind of knock on the door and go, hey, we're here. You want to chat, right? So,
oh my gosh,
so
much. And I think
I think. For me, it started with writing. It started with, the old term would be automatic writing, but
I do the same.
I just start writing, and I can remember when I first did it, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, I'm making this up. I can't. And then I would read stuff, and I would go, well, I would never say that, right? So,
Yeah.
but for me, the initial message, and I know this is the way it is for people that are just starting to channel, and it's so cool, it's so unique, and that message is, you are loved, we are here for you always. It's like this overriding message that your guides want you to know, that you are loved, and we are here. We are always here for you, right? And it's such a comforting thing. It's like, oh man, all right, you don't need to even tell me anything else. I'm good with those two messages, right? So, I don't need to get into specifics, but I think, so you're getting them on a couple of different tracks, right?
Yeah, and automatic writing as well. I forgot to mention that too. Sometimes I'll channel, Mother Earth or Galactic Federation, and I love to automatic write as well. And yeah, I think for people listening, it's something that you do have to almost fake it till you make it. In the beginning, when I was practicing light language and automatic writing, it feels like you're making it up. And I tell this to people too. Everyone's guides are always speaking to them or their higher self. It's in the voice of your own voice in your head. And so it's just that trust, building that trust, and that's been my biggest lesson in this life, and every area of my life is trust, because it's very easy to doubt. The mind doesn't want to believe the magic inside of us, and so when you just build the muscle, and I say this to everyone, it's always building a muscle with everything that you do, even psychic abilities, intuition. It's you just got to build the muscle, and stuff starts to come through, and that's kind of what I've done too. And some days I literally will record a video and I'm like astonished at what came through. I'm like, I don't even know what just happened. And then some days, my head's in the way and I'm a bit like, I don't know if people are going to like this. And so it's just a dance every day of balancing and trusting in yourself. And it's a journey, but it's beautiful. And it's just surrendering to trusting you and letting go of the doubt is honestly like going to never lead you astray. Yeah, that's great. Katie, this has been a fantastic time spent with you. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with all of us today. And I know my listeners probably want to know more about how they can connect with you. And I've told my listeners, and I'll say it again. So on my kxfmradio.org show page on Wake Up Laguna, there is a link there, and that link will take you to a page where you will see Katie's information there. And then I'm recording this, Katie, and I'll send you a recording of this after the fact as well. But this will be uploaded to my page. So this recording of our conversation will be there for people to go back to and listen to. But obviously they can connect with you through your YouTube page. I know you've got all your links on there, right? To your scheduling, how to book with you, how to book. And I know you've got something really cool coming up this Sunday, right? I do, yeah. So if anyone's interested, my light code activations that I do on an individual level, one-on-one, I'm offering a group one on this Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, which is, I believe, for you, 8 a.m.? Yeah, 8 a.m. So it'll be a group session, an hour long. So that's going to be my first big group session, which is exciting. There's already some people that have booked, so I'm excited for that. Aside from that, so yeah, I do my one-on-one readings and activations, and I'm definitely, in the works with a lot of other creations, but just taking it slow. Those are my current offerings. Well, Katie, thank you again so much for being here with us, and love the time that we spent together. I can't wait to see your next videos, which I'm sure there's going to be flying out here fast and furious. There's one today. Oh boy. Okay, I'll get it, because I always do. So I'll be watching that for sure. Katie, thank you so much. You are a beautiful soul, and I really appreciate what you share with everybody, and the impact that you're having. Thank you so much, Rick. It was such a pleasure. You're such a bright light as well, and I love this. So thank you so much for having me. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye, Katie. Okay, bye. That was so cool. She is such a bright light in the world today. And, we were talking about earlier about, what you consume and how that affects you, how that affects your feelings, how that affects your outlook on life.
I'm telling you right now, if you watch just a couple of Katie's videos, you get so much love out of her, what she's sharing. It's just amazing. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have her on the show. So I'm so happy that we had her on the show and that she shared what she shared, a little bit about her path. But yeah, that's fantastic. So wow, I'm still just kind of buzzing over the vibration that I got from Katie. She was obviously call-in, so not even here in the studio. Just amazing the frequency that people can put out. But I want to thank everybody for listening in. I'm going to kind of begin my wrap up here. We've talked about a lot of things on the show today. As always, I love being here with you guys. I feel part of my purpose is to share all of this with you, and I'm so grateful that I get that opportunity here on KXFM every Wednesday morning to be able to do that. It's funny. There's a sign here in the studio, and I actually posted on my socials, I think on Insta and Facebook. There's a sign sitting here in front of, right behind the board here on the desk that says, "We celebrate mistakes." And then in small print, it says, "So make them with gusto." And I love that. And, we don't need to strive for perfection. We're going to make mistakes. That's part of our life path. That's part of our journey. And we need to celebrate those mistakes because we learn from them and we grow from them. So I've got a great show planned for you next Wednesday. I'm still working on who I'm going to bring on with us for my second hour, as I always do. But whoever it's going to be, I've got 2 or 3 possibilities. They're going to be great. They're going to be wonderful, and they're going to have a very special message for all of us, for sure, that they're going to be sharing. So, I'm going to leave you with a beautiful song by Lee Harris, who is a brilliant channeler that's been out in the spiritual space for a number of years. But I'm going to leave you with this, and then, and then I will plan on seeing you guys. Oh, don't forget, I'm on Fridays with my show Under the Covers. Right? So I'm going to be back here on Friday, Under the Covers, where I'm playing the best of classic cover rock. So I'm going to have a special show for you this Friday as well. But I'll be back here in a week, Wednesday, for Wake Up Laguna. And it's so great to spend this time with you. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. I love all of you. Be kind to one another, and I will see you soon.
So many years I was looking to find my way. I was dreaming the future while missing the day. Mold in the hands of the seekers and travelers. We were looking for answers and learning to pray. Freedom can only be found now. Surrender your feet to the ground. Freedom can only be found now. There's nothing left to do.